All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining again. This is number 56, Campfire. We had a little bit of a rush with April setting us up, setting everything up, but we're all set. We're here, which is awesome. So thank you for joining. Today, I have the immense pleasure of welcoming April Long to the show. April is an instructor with Nucamp, but much more than that as well. And so we'll have a chance to really go through your story, April, ask all about your background, how you got into coding, um, ask you plenty of questions around teaching and teaching others. I know that's really where your passion lies. Um, so if you're hearing us, if you're seeing us right now, that means you're connected to either YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, and you can chat with us. You can ask your questions to April or myself. You can even join us live if you want. And I really want people to take us on this one, but not many do. But if you go to url.nucamp.co/dial-in, you can actually join April and myself here with your camera on, with your microphone on, and we can just have a chat. So again, don't hesitate to ask your questions online using the chat. I see Krista is here. Hey, Krista. I see Drew is here. Hey, Drew. Um, and with that, we're going to actually get started. April, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, where you're dialing in from, and you're removing your virtual background. All right, go for it. Do you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thank you for your patience, Ludo, as I was getting set up. My name's April Long. As you heard, I'm currently in Aurora, Colorado. It's beautiful outside today. As Ludo was saying, I come from an education background. I was a teacher, always wanted to be a teacher. Left the field, decided to try tech. First job out of boot camp was a teaching job. So I couldn't get away from teaching, which obviously it's my passion. It's where I belong. So I am currently working as a software test engineer for a startup here. It's actually out of Austin, the startup. I'm working there, but I have to stay with my education. I love teaching. It's so much more fulfilling. So I'm teaching at Nucamp and at another institute. And yeah, that's where I find myself to be more effective, is in the classroom.
That's awesome. I would love actually to start with you telling us about the position you have as a software testing engineer, because a lot of people don't know that field very much, and I believe it's actually a great field to start with. And some people think, well, it's testing, it's not necessarily engineering. They don't really get what it entails. So, would you mind telling us a little bit about that position that you have? I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile here. You are a software test engineer at Two Matches. Can you tell us what it is? Like, what first, maybe, what does a software testing engineer?
It kind of sounds like what it is. You're doing the testing of the site as a whole. So our role kind of comes in the in part of production. So once the DOM has been built and the back end and everything, then it's my job to go in and run these certain types of tests. What happens when you're logged in? Are you seeing what you need to see when you're logged in? What happens when you're not logged in? Having to test all those different functionalities. Also having to test the wireframes against the actual site. We work from wireframes a lot when we're building. And so we have to ensure that these wireframes are matching the site. So going in and kind of running these tests. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, I have a background in English. So the CEO at 2 Matches was like, "Oh, I can use you. This is great. This is great." So I do a lot of editing too, editing for them, not just how the site looks, but like making sure that titles are supposed to be uppercase, and making sure grammar, because a lot of the engineers are all over the world. We have engineers in Africa, in Europe. Sometimes English isn't their first language. So I also work on with that, but I'm in the last part of production, testing the site, testing that it's running as expected. That's my current.
Gotcha. And so when you say running test, what does that
Mhm.
mean exactly? Like, how do you run tests?
Sure. So they're called end-to-end test or automated test.
Yeah.
And we use, I use languages like Gherkin to run
Gherkin.
these tests, to say like when logged in, if this button is clicked, do this, then this
I'm
should
looking
happen.
at Gherkin now.
Oh, Gherkin. It's it is a very much a highly syntax language. It kind of reminds me of SQL in a way.
Yeah,
Do this with this. If this is clicked, this should be the output. So we work with Gherkin, a lot of TypeScript. Yeah, Gherkin
I'm sharing
syntax.
as well.
Cucumber, yep, Cucumber is another
Cucumber.
one that we work with to run these automated tests. So we take, like, for example, the login page. I'm testing all the inputs of the login page. So I'm
Mhm.
manipulating the DOM, I'm grabbing different elements from the DOM, and I'm testing certain outputs. I run these automated tests in the back end. It usually gives us like a proof there's problems or there's not problems. If there are problems, it could be things like class names aren't matching or input fields aren't valid, and we're able to see those tests, give it back to the engineers and have them go over, fix those tests. Other times I may fix the test, but
Oh, you mean
everybody.
you will fix the code itself?
Yes, fix the code itself, but
Yeah,
a lot of the times, we all have to stick to our roles,
yeah.
so my job's more the test. If it needs to be fixed, I'll send it to the other engineers who are in charge of that part of the job, and they'll fix those based off of my test. So I have to constantly run tests on the pages, especially because there's a lot of updates. There's always updates on these
Yeah.
pages, so every time there's an update, I have to run tests on it.
And so, but I mean, you're writing code as well, right? I mean,
Yes.
those tests are code. So you're writing code. It's
Mhm.
just a different kind of code. Instead of coding to produce a wireframe or web page, you're writing code to test someone else's code, but it's
Yes.
still writing code. Are you writing those Gherkin's tests yourself?
Yes, we write them ourselves. We use TypeScript and Gherkin. There's a lot of different pages that we
Yeah.
have to go through. There's like a test page. Hold on, I'm opening up my VS Code right now, just so I can see all my stuff. Um, there's a
Don't
there's
share
different.
anything. I don't know if you can share, but don't share your code, or don't leak a private key or anything like that.
No, I had to sign an NDA. I signed an NDA. Don't worry, I can't share. So no, I can't share anyway. But I was just kind of seeing what I was doing. But yes, we write code. We use we use Cucumber and
Yeah.
Gherkin and TypeScript to run the tests. It's all run through Cucumber. Gherkin is the syntax that we write it with, and Cucumber is what automates the test and gives us our results.
Mhm.
And then, like I said, we also use TypeScript to write the code as well as Gherkin. They
Yeah,
kind of
that's
go hand
beautiful.
in hand.
So that's
Mhm.
something that a lot of people don't really realize, right? When they think, "Hey, I want to be a software engineer," and they see a testing position, they're like, testing." Um, but it is 100% a software engineering job where you're writing code, you're debugging your own code, and it's a lot of responsibilities. As long, of course, as it's done the way you are doing it. Like, you don't want to take a test position where everything is tested manually. Or you can also see that as an opportunity to automate using the tools that you've just
Yes,
described.
yes. And it is, I wasn't really into testing either. It wasn't on my radar.
Yeah.
When I interviewed for the job, I interviewed for, the full stack position, and he felt like, "Well, I want to start you off here." It is kind of a
Um,
stepping stone. So he was like, "I think I want to start you off here first to
yeah.
learn testing." So I didn't have any background in testing. Um, I learned it when I got the job. So it is something easy but something that, of course, you can learn. Everything can be learned. But
Mhm.
I learned when I got that job. And if it weren't for the job, I really wouldn't have any interest in testing as well. But I'm glad that I did. It's very comparable to other things that I've already done. So it
Yeah,
was easy to learn. And I've been learning Angular recently, and Angular has their own testing system built
yeah,
in with the application, which is really cool. So it is beneficial to know and learn. So yeah.
cool. Hey, I want to take a question from Hudson Price. Um, I'm from Pakistan. Hey, thank you for joining. I think it's super late for you. Can I get into Nucamp with an ISA program? You can get into Nucamp. We don't offer ISA, neither, I mean, for US citizen or international students. We offer a payment plan, and you can just get in by, putting your credit card and signing up to the payment plan.
Mm.
So yeah, you're welcome to join. It's not an ISA program though. All right, so let's go back to the beginning now. That's what typically I like to do. Now that we've covered the testing position and what you do as a test engineer,
Okay.
uh, you didn't start in the tech world. You started as an educator. Can you tell us a little bit what first led you to become a teacher,
Hmm.
um, and when did it start for you to really think and consider shifting gears and getting into the tech world?
Sure. So I always wanted to be a teacher. It's something I wanted since I was a little girl. So I did go to school to study English. I switched to history. I got my degree in secondary education with history as my emphasis. And I actually ended up teaching English. I lived overseas for a while in Asia, and I taught English there.
Nice. Where
And
in Asia?
I was in South Korea and China.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
Brilliant.
I taught English out there.
Mainland China or?
Yes, it was Shanghai.
Oh, nice.
Shanghai, China,
All right. Pretty cool.
and Korea, and I love Korea. Korea is great. It's overlooked in the travel to Asia. People want to go
Yeah.
Bangkok and Japan. Seoul is huge. I love Seoul.
Mhm.
So went there. That was great. Came back from overseas. Continued to teach English. Got burnt out, like a lot of teachers do. You get burnt
Yeah.
out. And it was actually one of my students because I teach at the college level. It was one of my students. He's from Angola. He was like, try coding, try web development. And I'm like, really? I don't know. I'm too all these ideas. I'm too old. I was like 29 at the time. I'm too old to be a developer. You
Yeah.
like I'm too old. I don't look like the other developers. This isn't going to be for me. And he's like, come on, it's great. Let's try it. So we went to a couple of open houses at some institutes here in Denver,
Yeah.
and I started picking it up, and then I got a scholarship with Udacity by Google. And that was really great. And I started studying, and then I said, well, I have all this knowledge. I don't want to throw it away. So I ended up enrolling in a boot camp and took my studies in a boot camp. And then, like I said, first job out, I'm like, yay, I'm free from education. No more grading papers. I'm so tired of grading papers. And first job is like, oh, hey, we're starting a program at Emily Griffith. We think you'd be great. Are you interested to apply? And I'm like, okay. First job out was teaching a full stack program, which was very overwhelming because I'm fairly new myself, right? But so got into that, loved the classroom, loved teaching, got a job in the industry, realized I wasn't nearly as fulfilled
Mhm.
pushing to a branch and working on my own with teams. I was like, you know what? I don't like it as much, but I love the look on my students' faces when they finally get those GitHub commands. When I
Mhm.
watch them LSCD, PWD, I'm just like, I taught you that. So it's I just realized that I do want to stay in the industry because we need that experience,
Mhm.
working in the industry, working for web development companies. But honestly, yeah, my passion truly is teaching English. Or I
And
mean,
we have,
English and math.
yeah, we have Nathan here who can really empathize with you. He has taught English in Japan for 4 years as well.
Right on. We're
Uh,
neighbors.
and then we have Louis, who's hoping to be in your classroom. Maybe you
Oh,
will, Louis. So I mean, we can say that, April, you're teaching HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? Mostly with us.
Yes, I mostly do the fundamental courses at Nucamp.
So, hey, Luis, how about you do that? When you're registered, maybe your first day, just shoot an email to student admin and see if you can get into April's class. How about we try to do that and make it happen
Yeah.
for you?
Come on, come on. I'll welcome you, Luis.
And then we have Krista sharing the same feeling about South Korea and Seoul.
Camcast in South Korea. Yeah, near Seoul, there were a lot of military. There's a military, as you know, and they're all mostly up north or down south. So yeah, I was down south. I wasn't in the capital, but it's a small country, so you can get from one end to the other end in 4 hours.
Yeah, pretty quickly. We're actually thinking about going to Japan, as you said. Japan in December ourselves and celebrate Christmas over there. So I wanted to ask you something. Oh yeah. So how did you actually start? For a lot of people, they don't necessarily go to a coding bootcamp straight away. They kind of, dabble on their own. Well, I'll be curious, being an English teacher, how do you, someone has just joined maybe? Who's that? There we go. Nathan is here. Well, let me pause actually on that question. If I see Nathan here, Nathan, I'm going to bring you over and maybe you can ask your question or maybe exchange some of the experiences you've both had teaching in Asia. Let's see if you're ready.
Oh, hi, Nathan.
Hi. So I just got curious, real quick here. How long did you teach in Korea for?
I was there for about a year and a half.
Year and a half? Okay. All right. And you were in Seoul, right?
I was in Gwangju, which is South Korea.
Right.
Southern South
All right.
Korea.
So I was just curious, did anything in Korea inspire you towards the tech world?
No. I wasn't even on my radar at the time. No, it wasn't until, actually, it was teaching English. When I came back to the US, I was teaching English at the college level, and it was one of my students in the classroom who inspired me. So kind of in a way, if I wasn't teaching English, I would have never even had this.
Yeah, because the reason why I ask is because I met a lot of people working in Japan who are working in the IT field as well, and for expats who are working in IT or doing computer science in Japan, and so that's part of what kind of inspired me because I envied their jobs because they were getting paid pretty well, and also because their job looked like fun too. Not just the money. So yeah, that's why I asked. Basically, that was pretty much it. That's all I really wanted to ask.
That's
here.
cool, Nathan. Hey, Nathan, it looks like you're studying right now, or at least you seem to be in a library. Is that where you are?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm studying right now. I'm in the public library right now studying. Yeah.
Very cool. So are you a student of ours, or are you thinking about
joining?
Yeah,
I'm a student. I'm a student right now in the back end program right now, in the back end camp right now.
Pretty awesome. Well, thanks for joining. Thanks for, very few people there joining us live like that. I'm really glad you did. It's always fun.
Oh, no problem. No problem at all.
Have a great time.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Yeah, good luck.
Thanks.
That's great.
Well, yeah, I love it. Trisha is here. You can't imagine how many fellow instructors and teachers we've had taking either becoming an instructor or becoming a student. Trisha's question, April, you are inspiring me. As a fellow educator, approximately how long does it take to get a job once someone finishes a program, and is there job placement help?
Okay, well, hi, Trisha. Welcome and thank you. Teachers unite, right? Once a teacher, always a teacher. So there are some statistics out there. Ludo, you could piggyback with me, but there are some statistics out there that I was given to that typically they say anywhere from 6 months to a year is what a lot of boot camps tell their students. 6 months to a year after you finish, are you likely to find a job? That's always not a guarantee. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. Me personally, I was about 7 months out of my boot camp when I found my first position. But interviews started coming in right away. Once I started applying, I started getting interviews fairly quickly after my boot camp, but didn't land that first job for about 7 months after. That's me.
Yeah, that's kind of typical. I think given the current context, you probably want to plan for a year, and you'll also want to be more and more targeted in your outreach. I mean, 2 years ago, you could know, just apply to a bunch of positions and hope that, by the law of numbers, one or two of them will get back to you and you'll have
Mhm.
interviews. I think
Yeah.
nowadays, especially since in person is back very strong, you really want to go for um, uh, networking more, engaging in your local area more, checking out the local businesses, the local startups, the big
Yeah.
companies that have the IT departments, really more being more local than just
Mm.
blasting everything on the internet. Um, and yeah, I mean, 6 months, 12 months is probably a good time frame. And don't overlook some of those positions. I mean, we've talked about software engineering test. It's a big deal, and it's a great position to start
Sure.
with.
Yeah.
All right, we have more questions. We'll take them afterwards. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I was going to ask you the question: How did you get started? Like, did you sign up for a bootcamp straight away? Did you do tutorial online? Like, what was your path into actually getting started?
So, like many of our students who come to us, we start with online tutorials, right? When you first, your interest is piqued, you might start with looking online, looking through some things. W3 Schools is one that always pops up for us. They're huge, have huge SEO power. If you're Googling anything about front end, you're going to see W3 Schools. So, I started out by just checking out things like that. Then I went to some like open houses. I think I mentioned some open houses at some of the institutes here. They're always trying to recruit. So they'll have a night where you can come in and take a like sample lesson. So I did that a couple
Mhm.
times, got started with that. And then decided to apply for that scholarship through Udacity. I was
I
like,
see.
okay, you know what? I'll try this scholarship. Got it. Even really still struggled completing my assignments online. I know that we had instructors, but I still realize I'm not a great online student. I liked in person. So
Yeah.
when I took my boot camp, it was in person and I liked more of that face-to-face teaching. And as an educator, I have taught online and I've taught in the classroom as well. And so I could see the differences in both, the pros and cons in both. But I got started that way, deciding I wanted more face to face. And then after boot camp, of course, because the learning process in this industry never stops, right? So even after you finish, you're still watching tutorials, you're still going with Udemy courses, you're still watching YouTube stuff, even far after you graduate.
Well,
So it
you're
never
right. I
stops.
mean, you did your boot camp in 2019, which is not just 4 years ago. Do you remember the stacks that you learned at the time? Maybe the versions that you learned at the time, and let's actually have some fun describing what you know now and what you've actually learned since.
Oh my goodness, right? No, we learned a lot. It was very heavy on the back end. So we went real hard in with Node,
Yeah.
React, right? A lot with MySQL and databases, things like that. When you are caught in this fire hose of information, this was a very intense boot camp. It's not like Nucamp. I think I see on here Hudson said, how does Nucamp different from other boot camps? It's definitely not as rushed than some of these boot camps that are like 9 weeks where you're
Yeah.
getting a fire hose of information and only getting bits and pieces and just feeling like you're drowning. I would say that it's definitely not like that at New Camp. It's a lot more slow paced, especially for beginner learners. That's something
Mhm.
I can say personally from teaching. But the one thing with that program, old things, oh my gosh, like React Router DOM. React Router DOM is different.
Oh, oh yeah.
When I learned, we used something different with setting up React Router DOM. And it
Mhm.
wasn't until I was in front of the classroom teaching React Router DOM that I found out, oh, they don't do it that way anymore. We just need route, not the DOM and the route. So I was like, oh, well, I'll be darned. And Boost, what's the other one? It was free for Heroku. Heroku, when I left boot camp, was free
Yes,
for
that's right.
applications.
Yeah,
Now they're
and very
charging.
recently, yeah, it's been a big backlash online because of that. Yeah,
Yeah, right? So
and
things
you
like
said
that. Uh-huh.
you learned, the testing languages,
Mhm,
TypeScript. I mean, you always learning, as you said.
mhm.
Um, yeah, and it's funny you say that it's not as rushed. And then immediately Nathan and Connor just chimed in and really confirmed that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first time I hear that, to be honest with you, that I feel
Oh,
like we're not as rushed than other coding boot camps.
mm-hmm.
Good to know.
Yeah,
And
it's a
then
nice
Connor,
place.
yeah, I felt so rich in the other good boot camps. Okay, great to know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so you played around with W3 schools a little bit online, and then you make the jump.
Yeah.
I have to say, Udacity. If I think about online learning providers, and you probably have experience with others, but it's one that is probably one of the best structured, I would think,
Mm.
in terms of how they really kind of guide you through the experience, the learning. I mean, if you compare it with Coursera and edX, where you are a little bit more on your own, this feels
Mm-hmm.
like it's a bit more structured in some ways. Um, so you finished your boot camp in 2019, and I guess you were lucky that you were able to do it in person.
Yes, it was right before the
Uh,
big boom. Mm-hmm.
So, how much did that really impact you? Like you graduate, and then I guess maybe 6 months later, all of a sudden, the world becomes upside down. How did that impact your ability to find a job?
It definitely changed the way. I feel like I was lucky during that time because during COVID, there was actually an influx of need for developers
Yeah.
because now everyone's online, right? You can't go anywhere. Everyone's online. They're ordering food online. Look how much DoorDash and Grubhub and all those businesses exploded during COVID.
Mhm.
So I've noticed that there was a bigger need for web developers at that time, but it was a different experience. My first job, apply online, interview online, meet online, train online, start teaching online. And when we finally went back in person, I didn't recognize anyone. Everybody's like, "Oh, hi, April, it's me, your boss that you talk to every day." I'm like, "Oh, huh. I've never seen you in person. Interesting." Couldn't even recognize you, right? So it was definitely different. But it was a different time. I still feel like it was different for hiring. But we also saw the benefit of that during that time. And a lot of jobs have decided to keep their developers at home. That is like an aftermath I've noticed after all of this COVID stuff. If you were in office, we figure, you know what, we don't necessarily need you in office. And a
Yeah.
lot of these jobs got pushed home. A lot of developers I know are working from home because
Yeah.
everything's just online.
And especially if you were hired before
Yes.
COVID. So
Mhm.
the first position, you were a web development instructor, and that was local, right? That was nearby in Aurora as well, or was it remote?
It was in Denver. It was remote. The
Yeah.
school is in Denver, but
Okay.
when it first started, we were online. And then halfway through the year, we went back in person. We
Okay.
finished off the rest of it in person, but we started off 100% remotely. Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference between getting your first job and then getting your second job? Because right now, the position you're in is really your second job in the software space, in the software engineering space. Would you say,
Yes.
I mean, do you count the web development instructor as your first job in the tech industry?
Yes. The
Yeah.
one at Emily Griffith. I feel like that was my first job in the industry.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely different. I tell my students too, that first foot in the door is the hardest part, right?
Yeah.
Getting that first job out of boot camp
Mhm.
is the hardest. I had some statistics here. I
Oh, good.
read that,
You prepared your lesson, huh?
yeah, I planned, right? I read that in 2019, there were the need for web developers were tenfold. There were only like 20,000 graduates of web dev in that year. The next year, it tripled times three. So now all of a sudden, you
Okay.
have all of these junior web devs hitting the market, making it that much more competitive. So sometimes that first job is the toughest, but really putting yourself out there, applying for things you didn't think that you would, really honing into your differences, not what you know, who you know. Sometimes you got to take that up. So that first job is the toughest. But once you're kind of in the industry, once I got that education job, then I was able to get others fairly easy. I got this job at Nucamp, right? I told you I'm teaching a stack route. So once you kind of get your foot in, that's the hardest part. Once you're
Yeah,
in, it's easier to kind of maneuver across other positions.
definitely.
Mhm.
Hey, there's a few more questions here. And by the way, did you notice your camera, your video is much better now? I don't know what happened, but
Oh, good.
all right. So, and Nathan is commenting, Nucamp is also more affordable. Yes, yes, it is. Thank you. Um, how beneficial is the career development course compared to just going through, let's say, the full stack course? I don't. Let me actually take that one because I don't know that you've taught that one,
Mm-mm.
April. So when you graduate from the full stack bootcamp, you have access to our career coaches, and you do have access to the 4-week job hunting course, but you have access to the content. The big difference with actually signing up for the job hunting bootcamp is you're going to be able to practice with other classmates and your instructor. So it's very much getting that practice 4 hours a week and being put in situations of having to do whiteboard interviewing, having to test you to be tested on algorithm and data structures.
Mm.
So that's very much a difference. So if you feel like you need that extra push, you want to probably register for the job hunting bootcamp, but it's not a requirement if you just graduated from the full stack bootcamp, because we already help you to actually get that first job. So I hope
Mhm.
that's helpful. And we have Candice here as well. Hey, Candice. All right.
Oh, hi, Candice. Oh, hi, Candice. Yeah, she wrote me on LinkedIn not too long ago,
Oh,
kind of
cool.
getting into our representation. She
I
had
was
kind
going
of
to say, so I saw that post on LinkedIn, and that was really the trigger for let's talk about let's do the segue. So, well, tell us about that exchange with Candice and what it means.
Yeah, so it was great to hear. First of all, last Saturday, it was a little bit hectic. I was backing up and something happened with my terminal. I went to start my React app and it just went haywire. And I was like, oh, I start class in 5 minutes. Right. So I had to join in with another instructor, which was nice. But, and Candice was there. And so I had kind of thought it was a mess. I was like angry on myself, like, I can't believe this is happening. And so she had written me on LinkedIn and said, oh, it was great seeing you in class. And it was great seeing a woman of color in class. And it made my day, Candice. I think that made me smile. Thank you for that. Because like I said, it was already a hectic morning. So I'm glad that I didn't exude that hecticness. And so, yeah, she reached out and just said, thank you for being there. And thank you it's good seeing, somebody who looks like me in this role because it's not very common. So, and I notice here at Nucamp, we do, I notice here at Nucamp, we do have a lot of educators of color, mostly men, of course. That is something that, and when I think about representation, I don't think just race. Back to my statistics. I have my statistics here. When I was looking at tech instructors, 50% are men and 50% are women. So on the gender level, it's pretty equal as far as instructors go who teach tech
You mean across the industry or at New Camp?
across the industry.
That's actually pretty good. I had
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah, rate in tech, it said 50% are men, 50% are women. Then it even breaks down race. 72% are Caucasian, 11 are Hispanic Latino, 8 are African American, 4 other, which I guess whatever that is, you might fall in the other category. And then the other thing I was looking at is over half of students enrolled in boot camps like this are first generation graduates or first generation going to school. So a lot of the time you don't have anybody. It is kind of like me when I was in boot camp. I didn't have anybody. I could like everybody say, oh, my cousin is a coder. My uncle is a coder. I'm like, I don't know anybody personally who, so representation for these first generation educators too. You're representing your family, you're representing someone who might have not even thought of this industry. So having that representation, someone who you can relate with, really helps, I think, a more welcoming environment in your
Yeah.
classroom.
I mean, it really helps the creation of role models and knowing that, someone else that looks like you and has similar background has been able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was really nice. I saw that one as well myself, and it was great to see that exchange. So glad to have you here, Candice.
Yes.
All right. I'm gonna blush now. Stop it. Stop it. Nucamp is amazing, but it is boot camp. You only get out. You put to work hard, but learn
Yeah.
so much.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Krista signed up for the complete software engineering boot camps. That's 11 months. She's 3 weeks away from wrapping up.
Ooh, bravo.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn if you want. Hit me up on LinkedIn if you need. I always tell the students if I could help in any way, find me on LinkedIn. Use my connects. I always try to post. So you're
Let
close
me
to the
let me
edge.
share your. So
Oh, yeah,
there
there's
you
me.
go. There you are.
Yeah.
April Long, right
Mhm.
here. All
There
right.
I am. Find me if you're interested. That's right.
And then we have Candice. Perfect. Awesome. I'm
Yes.
looking for additional
Mhm.
questions. What do you think? Oh, all right.
Mhm.
So we had a conversation. We had an instructor call 2 days ago, and I talked about AI a little bit. Hudson, you probably want to check out. I think it was last week. I did a full hour on AI and my take on what it's going to do with developers. I'd love to ask you, April, what do you think AI is going to do to us poor developers?
Yes. And I did watch it last week because I was very interested in it.
Oh,
It was great. Good one.
good, good.
So yeah, I was checking out Chat GBT. What do we think about AI? Yeah. I was talking to somebody. I was an English teacher. I remember reading this article in my English class. It was titled, and this was maybe like 2017, right? So it's been a
Mhm.
few years now. The title of this article was "The next 20 years are going to make the last 20 years look like we've accomplished nothing." How
Wow.
technology is going to just continue to push, 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 push. And I kind of think like Siri, when Siri and all that came out was a huge deal. When I think of Chat GBT, that's like a Siri times 1,000, especially
Yeah.
on the capabilities of what it can do. So right now, I see it as an asset. However, in the near future, I mean, if things keep progressing as quickly as they're progressing, who knows where it can go? I mean, AI, that's why we as developers need to get on the right side of this industry. We're on the right side of it, right? If you have a job that code can be written to replace you, it might just be. Right. So we are on the right side of writing the code before the code is written to replace us. So I don't know. I mean, AI, it's part of that future that's gonna makes the future look a little like scary because it just keeps pushing, pushing, pushing. But it's the reality that we're in right now.
It's tough. It's tough to predict the future. There's so much happening right now. I
Mhm.
mean, we'll know more in a year, and then we'll probably want to wait another year because it's going to change again so fast.
Yes, right.
This is crazy. And what I find really intriguing is people are saying AI is going to have impact in various industries and various jobs. They're pointing out two industries, and we're at the intersection of those two. One is education. We're saying
Mm,
AI is going to have a huge impact on education, and then AI is going to have a huge impact in tech. Well, guess what? We're both in tech and education right now.
yes. Yay.
Um, how do you think about, there's a dilemma of, well, if I can ask ChatGPT to do my assignment,
Yes.
then how are you handling it? What's your thought process, you as an educator, as a teacher?
Mhm.
How do you think about, students taking shortcuts and having everything done by ChatGPT?
It's a nice benefit to have for modern day students. It can, that part with technology is that it's great, it's convenient, but it also has the possibility of making us more ignorant. And
Yeah.
I talk to my students when I was told you about that article, the next 20 years, what that looks like. There's a part that says we're in Google's reign. And while Google's great for quick info, just like Chat GBT is great for quick references, but that knowledge goes in and right out. So
Mhm.
although you're getting what you need for that assignment, what are you really learning? And I don't know, how much can you really learn from this AI bot? That's something you have to think about. That's why I think that it's not quite gonna. I think it'll be a while before AI replaces educators. I
Yeah.
think it'll be a while before it totally replaces the learning environment. Great example. My kids have been at the same daycare for 8 years. Every time I need to call this daycare, Google learning center. 8 years they've been at this, and every time I need the phone number, I still have to Google. That tells you right there
Yeah.
that this is quick info. It's in and
Yeah.
out. So that's why it's like that can't replace education, because education is something that's learned, not just told to you, you know. So that's why I think that we're not out yet. I think we still have some
Yeah,
time.
that's why it's scary, because all of a sudden, what if nobody acquires any skill anymore? What if we,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, what if we all just remain just dumb
Mm-hmm.
and ignorant, and
Mm-hmm.
we are kind of good for nothing because we have no skills. We never learned anything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is crazy. This is kind of the future that sometimes, you see in the movies. And
Yes.
I keep thinking about Wall-E. Do you remember that
Oh,
cartoon
yes.
from
Yeah.
Disney, where there's
Mm-hmm.
robots everywhere, and then we all become, super, like we can't even walk anymore, and
Yes.
we don't know how to do anything.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all right. Let's hope it's never gets there.
Well, maybe we'll see. I mean, it is cool. ChatGPT is super cool. Like I said, I've been geeking out on it. And ever since I've been talking about it, it's everywhere. It was on our local news this morning. It's just all
Yeah.
over the place. So it's really cool. It's really great. But again, I mean, no, my student was using it and he's like, well, I still don't know what the code says. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, ask ChatGPT to explain it to you then. Why are you coming to me, the teacher? You know, if ChatGPT is so great, why are you still coming to office hours to see a human teacher? You know, it's not the same kind of connection. Kind of what
So
you were talking about.
I don't know if I should share this. I actually asked ChatGPT what is the future of a school, right? In the world of AI. And then I asked, well, is there still a place for humans in that school? And the answer was yes.
Okay.
And it was really interesting to see how he was breaking down a school run by an AI, right? If a school could run an AI, what would it look like?
Mm.
And then how it was still really, and it was, and humans were really needed in a bunch of places. Let me actually share that. How about, what do you think? Should I just show this?
You sure? That sounds cool.
Let's see.
I mean, totally replace. I mean, there are a lot of industries that are lacking labor right now. And so if they can't, they keep thinking of ways to find labor. And if they can't find ways, they're thinking software. Okay, fine.
So this is, imagine a vocational school for adults that's 100% run by AGI, artificial general intelligence. So, it's like, what would it look like and what will it do differently? And so it's describing a bunch of stuff. A lot of that is not new. Personalized learning pathways, we've talked about always. Flexible scheduling, well, that's what Nucamp is trying to do. Skills-based learning, all of those things are really not new, but I think what it's saying is we're going to get better at doing those. And then I asked, okay, do you see a role for instructor and teaching assistants humans in this vision? And if so, what it would be? And look at all this: emotional support and empathy, real world experience, collaborative learning, mentorship.
Yeah.
And then I really like this one: quality assurance, like pretty much acknowledging that, hey, the AI is going to be dumb and it's going to mislead students. You want to catch that. And so I think that's exactly what we're saying. There's not a world where AI takes over. There's a world where it helps us do the things we've always wanted to do a little bit better.
Yes.
But I kind of felt like a relieved when I saw that. I was like, okay, there's the school of the future still needs us.
Yes. Thank you
Right?
for telling me, machine, that I'm not going to be replaced. Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. That was pretty cool.
And that's the one thing about Nucamp I noticed too, Ludo, is that what you were just showing, we do kind of have a self-paced program. The students during the week, they're reading, they're looking at videos and things on their own, but they really look forward to the Saturday workshops where they can come, and some of those ideas that they've been reading about can get ironed out, or can get better explained from the instructor, or they have certain questions that can be explained from the instructor. So even though they learn on their own, they still look forward to that face-to-face with an instructor on Saturdays.
That's exactly. I mean, this is everything. So emotional support and empathy, right? When you're struggling, DII is not going to give you that. Real world experience, DII is not going to bring you that.
Mm-hmm.
Collaborative learning, that's those workshops. It's all about, and DII is not going to bring people together like that.
Yes.
Mentorship, again, I mean, all of those things are very much where, instructors, teaching assistants, being with other students, not just learning on your own, is super critical. So
Yes.
that's awesome. So speaking of mentorship, we have a question here from Haley. For new developers that are just starting, would you suggest to have a mentor? And if so, how would you go about getting one?
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I guess it is always nice to have a mentor in life. How can you? I don't. I know. I don't know if we have a mentor program, but I know maybe if you have someone that you know who has been in tech and who has kind of been through the process, that can be an advocate. Like I was telling you with Candace, and there was another student who wrote me on Nucamp as well. When students write me on Nucamp and say things about my teaching, I always say, that's so great. Keep me as an asset. Use me as an asset. I always tell that to them. Like, you can come back to me and ask me for help. So keeping in touch with classmates and teachers who can play mentors, that's kind of a way of going about getting somebody like that. Just someone who knows what you've been through. And a lot of the time your instructors are people who know what you're going through coming in this industry.
Yeah. And then let's see, we have, I'm jumping to the end, but then we'll go back to the other earlier comments. Thank you, Carly. Thank you. We'd love to see you online. Then just follow. Oh, let me actually bring that up. Follow this link. Follow url.nucamp.co/dialin and meet April live and myself and let's have a chat. Let's see. And actually, when I clicked on that, I wanted to click on your other one, Carly. I didn't see the one. Access to an instructor and network with other students at Nucamp. Yeah, super important. And then we have Krista saying, Ludo, do you remember when I joined the Campfire before signing up? I think, yes. Krista, isn't it you who challenged us to say, hey, why don't we get the scholarship? Something like that. I think it was you, wasn't it? And then we did it for you. Remind me of that. But I think I remember. I have that connection in my mind. But I can't remember if that's the right thing. All right. So April. Yeah, it was you. Huh? That's right. So you brought your teaching experience and your teaching passion into the workplace, and you were a web development teacher, and then now you're a software engineer in test, and you're still teaching with us. Oh, I think someone kind of followed it. Yeah, that's Carly, I think. Hey, Carly, let's bring you in.
Oh, hi, Carly.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi.
So if you have a YouTube tab, you probably want to mute it. Otherwise, it's going to play, and you're going to have an echo in your ears. That's not going to be very, very nice.
Okay.
There you go.
Can you guys hear me or?
Very well. We can.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I look a mess right now. It's kind of unexpected.
It's good to see you, Carly. So are you a student of ours right now?
Yes. Right now I'm in the full stack program. I did take last year the back end course. And
cool.
Kind of took some time in between there and then came back and did the full stack developer program. So I'm really enjoying it. I love it so far. I love Nucamp so far.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Do you want to say a few things? Maybe do you have a question for April or for me or?
No, I was just really excited and I saw the title, of the Campfire. So the importance of representation in tech. I think it's so important. I am an immigrant and I come from a family where, I'm the first to do a lot of things. And so it is really helpful seeing someone that looks like you to help you sort of, navigate and that can, that you can identify with basically on a lot of different levels, maybe some things culturally that other people may not necessarily understand.
Yes.
So, and even just being a female or a woman in tech. And I love the fact that Nucamp has a lot of spaces where we can network with each other and speak with each other and just get that sense of community. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I want to make sure that you have been the beneficiary of a Google Women in Tech scholarship. Do you have one?
I was, I did get a scholarship, but it wasn't a woman in tech. It was, I had gotten my scholarship prior to the woman in,
Okay.
so, and it was through another program.
Okay.
But I love the fact that that is in place now. But I was able to take advantage of a scholarship.
All right, perfect then. That's great.
Yeah.
It's great to see you, Carly. Thank you for joining.
Yes,
Thank you.
it's great, Carly. Good luck. Find me on LinkedIn.
Thank you. I will.
Okay. All right.
Bye.
Good. Yes.
Oops. Sorry. Wrong button.
And back off thinking off of Carly, I remember when I started at DU, I remember having a lot of doubts when I first started. And I remember telling my husband, I don't think I should do this. I don't think this is for me. Like, well, who does this? Like, look at me. Who am I? And I had these doubts all the way up until I went, and there was a lot where I just thought, I'm not even going to do this. This isn't. And it was, my instructor was a female, that was reassuring. And it was just nice being able as an educator to be that difference, because I see the looks on my students' faces when they come into the class and they're like, oh, you're the teacher, which I get a lot of, by the way. Oh, you're the teacher. I'm like, yeah, it's me. Like, oh, okay, that's cool. So it's like, yes, this can be you. And I know how you felt, because I felt like that too. Like, this industry, I don't belong in this industry. And so to see somebody represent those feelings that you have, that's great. And that's why I know that you want to embrace your differences in this industry, because they're hungry for diversity in this industry, not just in race, in background, in class, in gender. They're hungry for diversity in tech.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's so needed, because if you don't have a diverse workforce that represents the diversity of the world, pretty much, you're only going to cater to what you know, and you're only going to build the software and that and so if you really want to be successful as a business, especially in the software industry, you have to be able to deeply understand your customers, all of them. And so that's a very strong driving force to really make sure that we all achieve a diverse workforce. All right, let's see what else we have. This is pretty cool. I really love the energy from everyone. Actually, it's the first time we've had so many people joining live, So it is Krista who kind of challenged on how we were delivering those scholarships and made us evolve.
Okay. Is that for me or for you? I thought it said scholarships.
Well, is it a campfire? Then where are the marshmallows?
Oh, yeah, right? Yeah. Somebody bring some to us.
It could be too early for that. I mean, outside right now, it's probably like still 40 degrees or something, at least where I am. So, but maybe, hey, you know what? That's a good challenge. Maybe in July, I'll do one outside near an actual campfire with the marshmallows.
Oh, give it a campfire feel.
Yeah. And maybe I'll invite a bunch of people to join me, and we'll actually just how about that? That'd be fun.
Yeah, look at that. Hudson, you started something. And I saw something earlier in the chat. Somebody mentioned, you talk about representation. And he said, what about disabilities?
Oh, that's right.
Other things like that. And I think that's, again, when I think of representation, I'm not just thinking representation with race. It could be gender, could be being first generation. It could be being different. Yeah, disabilities. A lot of disabilities are invisible. I actually do have an invisible disability. I don't want to get into it, but I do have an invisible disability too. But all of those things help build empathy for my students. The fact that, okay, I'm a woman, okay, I'm a woman of color. Yes, I have a visible disability. All of those things help build empathy, but you are being a part of that representation yourself, right? Like Nathan, by you going in this industry, you are representing people with disabilities and telling people with disabilities, look, I did it. You can do it too. Kind of deal.
Great point. Let me continue here. I'm new to this career field and just started web dev bootcamp. I will start Skills Bridge soon with Nucamp and excited to see what the future has. Well, that's great, Haley. Thank you for sharing that. And then Candice is asking a question here. How would you suggest going about being an educator in tech?
Yes, you know what? Hone in on what you already know. That's one skill that I realized, and you want to lead with your education background. Whenever I apply for jobs, Candice, for education, I always like to say I'm a teacher first. The skill, okay, we have different skills. I'm always going to be an English teacher. I'm a web dev teacher, but I'm a teacher, because just because you know how to code doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make a great coding educator, So leading with your teaching experience is going to be huge. Really pointing out to whoever you're interviewing with, I'm a teacher. I know how to maneuver a classroom. I know how to work with students. The web dev part, that will come. It always comes. That's my first job. When I was really nervous with my first web dev job teaching, I told the guy, oh gosh, the ink on my certificate is barely dry. Are you sure you want me to do this? He's like, we want you're a teacher, you're an educator, right? Like that's what we want. The coding will come. You'll get there. And you will. It does come. And by teaching, the more you'll know. So just definitely lead with what you feel most confident with. And if it's education, lead with that and apply for those jobs. And like I said, you'll get the material.
And I'll extend that and say, hey, down the line, don't hesitate to apply to become a teacher at Nucamp as well, if you're looking for a leg up, of course. And I think, Kenneth, as you were exchanging with April, I looked around the profiles and I think I remember you having experience in the tech industry already, maybe WordPress or something. Like I kind of remember that you may actually not be new to this, which means you could be ready as well to also teach others. So if that's the case, don't hesitate. Teaching someone, Hudson says, teaching someone is a skill. It's a skill itself. Indeed, it is. So, April, where do you see yourself in, let's say, 3-5 years? You are in your second job right now in tech. The future looks bright. You're doing what you're really able to get into your passion of teaching. What's the future hold for you, you think?
Yes. Golly, I mean, everything's changing and growing. I'm learning Angular right now. And I just learned TypeScript this weekend. So constantly building on what's hot, staying in new with what the hot languages are. I know AI is big right now. So just trying to stay up with what's needed in the industry and just trying to stay relevant in the industry. I feel like education is a safe umbrella for me. Like I feel like if all else fails, I always have my teaching background. I always have my education. So I guess just continue to grow in this industry. I have had lots of offers to go back to what I've been doing, English. A lot of, you want to come back to New America? Do you want to come back to teach at university? And I'm like, no. I want to keep my focus on tech. So just trying to stay immersed in what I'm doing and just continue to grow. Ludo, wait, grow real quick.
Yeah.
I said it. Something that earlier I wanted to say if I answered your question, it was, you mentioned about her applying for Nucamp.
Yes.
We do have a lot of alumni. We have alumni who are teachers here at Nucamp, which is really cool. So we do have people who have taken our courses who have later come on to become instructors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, one last one, and then we'll wrap up. Yeah, I was able to use what I knew in customer service and customer support. Yeah, absolutely. your background, what the industry and your role that you had before is it's a special skills. It's what makes you special and different. So you really want to lean into that.
Yes.
All right. Hey, so we're on time, April. Thank you so much again for being here and sharing your experience, going from being a teacher to being a developer to being a teacher again. Very much appreciate everything that you're doing for your students here at Nucamp. I know they really enjoy having you as their teacher. And if you have one last thing to say to this audience, to candidates, to Amrit here and Hudson, what would it be?
Yeah, keep it pushing, everybody. Sometimes imposter syndrome can take over and a lot of self-doubt. Keep that growth mindset. There is promise in this industry. Just keep at it. And there's a place for all of us here as long as we just keep working at it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much again. Goodbye, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Yes,
See you
bye.
next week. Take care.
Happy Easter if anybody celebrates. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.